the next one, where do I begin the introduction for the next speaker? He's a theater artist. He is a cross fitness coach. He's a marketer. He's a copywriter. He's a content specialist. He is the CMO of one of the fascinating companies I look up to, Acrolinx. Christopher Willis, please. His strategies and focus has always been out of the box. When we had a discussion with a person, a versatile person like Chris, to ideate the topics and the choices that could be possible for Unmute, the untold marketing stories, the possibilities that we had were endless. He was giving a lot of options that we kind of wanted to pick everything. But for the sake of this discussion, we unanimously decided to go with the most provocative of them all. Forget customers, focus on value. Imagine this coming from a CMO of one of the most reputed company. Forget customers, focus on value. Over to you, Chris. I've been fascinated by this topic, and this is one of the most exciting sessions that I've been personally looking forward to listen to. So over to you, Chris.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's get my bearings here. I'm going to share my slide deck, and I guess I can leave myself there for now. It's fine. Okay, you can hear me. I'm good to go.
Yes, Chris, I'm able to hear you, and this slide pack is very much visible.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I just made it through my biggest technical hurdle of the day, so I'm pretty excited. That was my second. Here's what I think. You didn't ask, but you invited me here, so I'm going to tell you. From a content creation standpoint, we believe, or at least we want to believe, that our customers want to know about us, right? So they want to understand what our product does, how we build it, where the value is, how to use it. And we love making this type of content because it makes us feel connected to everything that we do. We're the domain experts, right? We tell our story better than anybody else ever could. But here's the thing. That's not really the case. It's not really what our audiences are looking for. Because as much as you're a content creator out there in the world, you're also a content consumer, and you should know better, right? As a content consumer, what do you really care about? Well, for me, I care about finding other people's content that makes it easier for me to do my job. So you're looking for content that solves your challenges. And getting product information for the sake of product information doesn't solve your challenge. It just doesn't, right? So I did some research on what people consider to be great content marketing. And before I say anything further, I'm going to apologize for this. But this is award-winning content. This is a Microsoft microsite. It's Microsoft by the numbers. It's a collection of visual statistics about Microsoft. Its products, its services, its people, products, offerings, everything that Microsoft does. It's a really neat piece of content. Again, it's award-winning, and it's interesting if you care about it. But here's the thing. B2B content marketing that talks only about your company is really only useful to people that know who you are, that care about your business, and that want to know more. So if you're Microsoft, this makes a lot of sense. But a lot of us aren't Microsoft. I'm not going to say this is bad. It's not. I'm just saying that while award-winning and by the book and content marketing 101, this isn't going to change the trajectory of Microsoft's business. This is not the piece of content that's going to drive them to the next level. And I love you, Microsoft. I'm sorry for using you as an example. You're amazing. But this was just what I learned when I was out doing some research for what wins awards. So I want to start with a provocative statement, or as I like to refer to it, a PSOTD. You can use that in your office. I like to say, I'm going to throw out the PSOTD. I don't know if I mean it, but I'm going to say it, and we can fight about it now. And so that provocative statement of the day is, you're just not that interesting. Okay, I don't know if I mean it, but that's what we're going to talk about today. There's nothing more boring than business-to-business, product-centric marketing content. It might be useful, it might be necessary, but boy, it's really boring. And nobody out there is specifically looking for that. That's not an answer to a question in nature. It's an answer to a question in your sales cycle, but it's not something that somebody's searching for. So what I want to talk about today is outstanding content that separates you from the pack, that helps you fight above your weight, that helps you build awareness and excitement and engagement that otherwise wouldn't be possible for your company. Because that's where I think content marketing can make the biggest difference in the world. Great content that's useful, actionable, interesting, thought-provoking, educational, engages, it's impactful. It's going to open doors. It's going to open doors that you might not even know exist. And it's going to make you and your company more successful. So I should introduce myself. I'm Chris Willis. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Pipeline Officer at Acrolinx. Acrolinx is an AI-powered software platform that improves the quality and effectiveness of enterprise content, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. Today, we're going to take a very personal journey back through my career, starting back in the 90s, ending up today, looking at 5 specific occasions where we threw out this award-winning content marketing playbook to create content that changed the businesses I worked at dramatically, for the better, let's be clear. So let's head back to 1996, shall we? Now, first disclaimer, you're looking at this person on the screen and you're looking at me. And I enjoyed eating a lot more back in the day. Today, some of you probably know I am in my spare time a CrossFit coach, a diet and nutrition coach. But as you can see here, I wasn't in 2000s or in 1996. So take note as we travel through time, the improvement in my overall health. I don't think it's tied to content marketing, but for the sake of a good story, let's say that it's because I've created better content marketing over the last couple decades. Back in 96, I worked at a little company called Cambridge Technology Group. It's an executive education provider that doubled as a startup incubator on the MIT campus in Cambridge. This was the early days of desktop internet. It was the company at which I saw a browser for the first time. And we had a message about the development of enterprise applications to add efficiency and operational excellence to large enterprises. But being a small company, who's listening? Who's going to hear that? How are we going to get the word out? And the answer, as it turned out, long story short, was content. We wrote a book. We wrote a book called The Second Industrial Revolution, Rebuilding Your Business on the Internet. It did later get changed to Business Strategy and Internet Technology in the second pressing. But essentially what we were writing was an implementation strategy for reinventing your business with internet technology. It's a book that discusses the formulation of correct business strategies for that day in 1996-97, the reinvention strategies for the future, right? And why did we do that? Well, because again, we were a small company in Cambridge. We did have a great audience. We were an executive education company. So we spoke to executive leaders from some of the biggest companies in the world. But lots of people talk to them. I mean, all of us do, right? It's who we market to. So we need an asset that's going to jump off their desk, make them take notice, spark the imagination of the folks that come to our classes, and that would then go out and talk to the world and make this seem bigger. So our goal in this book was to position Cambridge Technology Group and our founder, John Donovan, as the premier thought leader in this space and drive business. Now, we were an executive education company. What were we driving business for? Our incubator, for the companies that we were growing. And the result from this experiment, this book, was thousands of copies sold and distributed. We increased seminar attendees. We increased inbound leads by 85%. And we supported the growth of 4 different startups and 2 different joint ventures. This single piece of content acted as the springboard for these companies that would end up going global and in some cases eventually go public. It was a great result for a piece of content marketing at a tiny little company. Now, again, if we had just done a product brief on our executive seminars and talked about how we educate folks, that would have been an interesting content marketing piece. It would have been an expectable content marketing piece. But a book wasn't expected. It wasn't asked for. Nobody was waiting for it. It was something that we put out into the world that drove a big change for us as a business. and for a lot of people that worked at 6 different companies. And in fact, while it is not in the chronology here, one of those was a company that I worked for. I left Cambridge Technology Group and went to KPMG CT, which was headquartered in the Netherlands, delivering the very internet projects that came out of the book. We went and sold in the classroom with Cambridge Technology Group and did the implementations. So a valuable piece of content marketing, unexpected, but valuable. Still a pretty big guy in 2002. But anyway, let's move beyond that. The 529 College Savings Investment Vehicle, 2002, starting to hit its stride. This is a financial instrument that you invest pre-tax money into to save for your children's college educations. It's not the best plan anymore, but it was great back in 2002, and people were really excited about it. And again, this is sort of early days of online transactions. And Pyxis Consulting, the company that I worked for at the time, was involved in implementations of software products for financial services companies. And we saw this process of online enrollment as a market opportunity for us. We're only 20 employees. We have a minuscule marketing budget. There's really no way to build mass awareness among the plan stakeholders, because those stakeholders included the biggest global investment managers in the world. And what made it more complex was it also included the state treasurer's offices, because each American state has their own 529 plan backed by a major investment firm. So there's a lot of people to talk to. And again, it's a small company with 20 people. We took a different approach. What we did was we created a lot of fear and concern. We worked with the individual state treasurers' offices to develop a national score sheet for their plan managers' online enrollment processes. Take this small part of a big product, focus in on it, and then tell people they're doing it wrong. We created that, built an ebook. The screenshot is right there. It's actually interesting. I texted one of the partners in the business when I was putting the slide deck together and said, hey, do you have a 529 plan white paper that we wrote in 2002? And without hesitation, yep, it's in your email. Digital hoarder. Anyway, we pitched this to the media. We wrote this ebook, pitched it to the media, not to our customers. It was hard to get the attention of these plan managers, companies like Merrill Lynch, for instance. But it wasn't hard to get the relationship with the states. And once we had the relationship with the states, it wasn't hard to get the relationship with the media. And Wall Street and Technology was the first media site to pick this ebook up and write about it. And now there's articles in major fintech publications talking about a failure to deliver on online enrollment across the biggest investment management companies in the world. And you can imagine what happened next. The states complained to their plan managers, and the plan managers called us inbound. And all of a sudden, our little 20-person company, and let's be more direct, the 3 people that wrote this white book were the world-leading experts in 529 technology. And every single plan manager needed to talk to us. This was well beyond what we should have been able to do. But this one piece of content, which wasn't about us or our product, was just about a process and a rating system, didn't just put us on the map, but put us in boardrooms that we should never have been able to get access to, having conversations not just about online enrollment process, but about 529 product law. I'm not an attorney. I never suggested I was to these folks, but we were the world leader in this. And the result was that this one piece of content, it powered the launch of an online enrollment process, positioned us as a global leader in the 529 plan law and process, and generated relationships that resulted in millions of dollars in revenue. And that revenue fueled a whole another part of the business. So maybe we should talk about that business. Let's jump forward a couple years. What do you say? Boom. So we flash forward to roughly 2010, 2011 timeframe. And at that time, we had transitioned into a mobile application development platform. You might not remember mobile application development platforms, but back in 2004, 2005, the first packaged mobile applications hit the enterprise. So applications delivered and developed for a specific use case in an enterprise. This is pre-BlackBerry, pre-iPhone, pre-Android, so running on Palm Pilots and Windows CE devices. And as we progressed through the early 2000s, more devices came online. So first BlackBerry, then iPhone, then Android, all hit the stage. And now we've got a single application that we want to have run across multiple operating systems prior to there being an easy way to do that. So parallel would be early web development days when you have big, expensive platforms to develop your websites. So how do we get companies to even know that's a thing, right? So we started this company, the first packaged mobile application company that turned into the first cross-platform application development platform. And if we ever wanted to gain traction, we needed to teach enterprise app developers that there was such a thing. Because people are out there trying to build web apps. They're trying to build individual code bases for each of the platforms they support. And we know there's a better way, but we can't get the attention of the world of mobile app developers. So we picked a person. Now we picked enterprise architects, and we essentially defined the vision for enterprise mobility, define the requirements to deliver applications to a cross-platform audience, and a blueprint to modernize that process. This became the Own Your Mobility book that you see in front of you. And we wanted to get this book, again, on the desk of enterprise architects at Fortune 2000 companies. So writing this book, again, this isn't about us or our product. This is about a space. This is about defining a category, a technology area, exposing that and driving it out in the marketplace. So what happened when we did this? Well, beyond just expanding our awareness, this content piece aided in moving us up into the right on Gartner's Magic Quadrant for mobile enterprise application platforms by effectively defining the space correctly for them. They had had a whole different platform Magic Quadrant the prior year. We helped define that space, introduced criteria for inclusion, and moved into a strong position against companies like Sybase that were doing somewhat the same thing that we were doing, just not in the way that we were doing it. By putting the framework in place, it positioned us as a leader in that space. You may remember the first Concur time and expense mobile application. That was us. The first Netflix queue manager on mobile. That was us. Craigslist mobile in the early days. That was us. In addition to the mobile application used by mutual fund wholesalers all over the world, institutional investors all over the world, and the first portfolio management training or trading applications, again, globally. So one piece of content sets the agenda that opens up a marketplace for not just us, but companies just like us. And thinking beyond just delivering, let me tell you what we do. It's not about what we do. It's about what you need, the problem you're trying to solve. If we're part of the solution, that's super cool. If you never use us, that's also fine, because you're getting the value of a piece of content that's helping you to understand more. Let's move forward. So I really like this one. Fast forward 2016, you might notice that I look slightly more fit here. This is 3 years into my fitness journey. And in this photo, I was just back from a vacation in Iceland, and I was apparently super psyched about my new Icelandic sweater and shorts and Uggs. There's a lot going on in that. I get it. But anywho, at this point in my iteration, I work at a company called Perfecto Mobile. And my experience at Perfecto Mobile was full of branding, messaging, and category building, because mobile application testing in the cloud, which is what we did, was a tiny niche offering when I joined the company. It was a asterisk next to what HP was doing in software quality in general. HP does software quality. They work with this small company over here called Perfecto Mobile. Don't tell anybody, it's the thing. The big issue, again, was that people didn't know that mobile cloud testing was even a thing. It didn't register for folks. And then when they learned that it was a thing, they didn't really know how much of it they wanted to buy, what it was. They didn't understand the size of the problem. Like, how many devices should we be testing on? How many operating systems? What do my users actually use? So rather than create content to talk about us and our cool lab, we created content to help understand the issue. Well, Factors magazine was a quarterly. We took the data, we captured that data and created a magazine to deliver the most updated data on mobile device usage. Data is used by enterprises to make app development and testing decisions. So if we can show businesses the size of their app support challenge, who's using their product? If you're a bank, what are your consumers using when they visit your mobile app? It's going to drive them to understand what test coverage looks like, what devices they need to test on. So we created an asset that the entire enterprise app creation ecosystem looked forward to. This is the Bible on how you structure your testing model. Not about using our lab. We had nothing to do with this. We were not even in it. This was, if you're a financial services company in North America, these are the devices that you need to care about. If you are a consumer application in Germany, these are the devices you need to care about. The result of this quarterly document was that it not only increased awareness, it increased deal size. Our sales team would go out to deals with this book in their hand. People would be like, I feel like I want to test on like 10 different devices. Oh, cool. Hold on. Flip, 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 flip. 10 devices in your space, in your region, that gets you 35% test coverage. Are you cool with 35% test coverage? No, we're one of the world's largest and most conservative banks. We're thinking more like 85% test coverage. Oh, cool. 85% test coverage is 132 devices across these platforms and these model numbers. That just took that deal from $65,000 a year to $1.7 million a year. Content marketing dramatically changed the trajectory of this business. Not just in the way that we attracted our prospects, but in how we sold, in deal sizing, in deal closure, in expansion, in retention, all in one piece of content. This might be the most impactful one we've talked about. Again, we're not even in it. Our logo's on the front because I paid for the data. But this isn't a book about us. This is an industry Bible. This is how you test. Last one, 2020. You lived through it. It's been a bit of a mess. State of the world caused us to take action. We could take a position on inclusion, and we could use our voice to help companies be better. I'm not even sure why we're doing it, other than because it seems like the right thing to do. We're in linguistic technology. We're in natural language processing, and we're in guidelines. So helping companies adhere to guidelines. We wrote a guidebook on inclusive language in the enterprise. It's a guidebook that can help companies make their employees and external audiences feel like they belong. I'm going to touch on the intro to this book. It says on the intro page, we're on a mission to help global companies eradicate exclusionary language from their content. But we know that social justice won't happen overnight. As plain language writer and journalist Sarah Lutman explains, saying the right words doesn't automatically make equality or respect happen, but it's a good start. So let's dive into inclusive language and how to use it in the enterprise content. So that's the first step every workplace should take to say that you belong here, whether you're a consumer, an employee, or what have you. We didn't know going into this how this book would be used. We just knew we had some passion about this, and we didn't want to just put a statement up in mid-2020 about how we care about the world. We wanted to back it up with something. So again, we didn't know. But we quickly learned that the enterprise appetite for credible guidance and partnership in this area is huge. And we also learned that one of our employees who cares deeply about this initiative would eventually become an award-winning thought leader in this space. We didn't create this to sell our product, but obviously it opens a lot of doors for great conversations about how we can help. So the jury's out on what's going to happen with this piece of content. But today the book's used in hundreds of global enterprises as they chart their own DE&I strategy. It's pretty exciting for us to be able to give back and to help. And again, I don't know where this is going, but we talk about it a lot in our business. So let's wrap this. Look, I'm not saying that every piece of content marketing needs to be outside of the box masterclass on non-selling actionable content. And I hope I'm not giving you the impression that that's all I've ever done. We rolled out hundreds of product pieces in the last few years. They're necessary, even if they're not that interesting. But great content goes beyond your customer need. You have to create that. It's gonna solve problems. It's gonna help people be better at their jobs, and it's going to improve your business. Content can take you further. It can make you bigger than you are. So I'm Chris Willis. I am at CP Willis on LinkedIn. You can visit our website at acrolinx.com. Look me up, follow me, connect to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to have further conversations about this. Dinesh, thank you very much, man.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. That was a wonderful session. Uh, Fascinating, right? The slides to the content to your narration. It was all like very entertaining, Chris. There are quite a few questions, but first I would like to start with some of them which I have identified. Tell me this: you have narrated your story from 90s to 2020, but the images that you've used is like your older self to younger self. Is that right?
Yeah, Benjamin Buttoning. Yeah, I'm aging backwards.
You are seriously a Benjamin
Me
Button
and Paul
here,
Rudd.
right?
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm like, what is happening here? But seriously, Chris, from Microsoft to Netflix to Perfecto, how do you kind of draw the line between creativity and the subject matter expertise, right? It's too much of versatility. How do you play that role of bridging the gap, segue?
So, I mean, I think the big thing for me is not being afraid to do something crazy. It seems scary when you're like, let's do a magazine. What do you think? Like, I mean, at Perfecto, we'd been trying to build a category. We've been doing a lot of category building content, a lot of brand content, getting our messaging together and getting that out in the world. And then this total departure of like, to heck with that. Like, that's great, but it's not getting us anything new. It's for the people that know us, it's helping to clarify. But I want to meet new people. Let's build a magazine and not be afraid to fail. The magazine was expensive the first year because I'm buying all this data. Like we don't have mobile phone usage data, so we have to buy that. And so we take the risk of doing that. And that decision is scary for folks. And it's something that I have to go and support at the exec level, at the board level, that I'm going to spend a fair amount of my budget on something that totally untested, something that we've never done, something that most people have not done. But that risk generally turns out to be worth it one way or the other, whether the piece of content works and you're killing it, or you learn a lesson that your audience does not care at all about what you thought they cared about, which helps you to better target in the future. Crazy stuff is fun. It also, I mean, just from a team dynamic standpoint, helps you build and keep great marketing organizations. When people can do things that they think are crazy, they get excited about it and they want to work there. So I've been very lucky to have really amazing teams because people come to work where I am because they know that they're going to get to do a lot more than they would in other places.
With you saying this, I'm sure you'll get a lot more of people who want to join your team, Chris. It's a very rare statement that you can hear from a leader in your space, right? And how do you do that calculated risks, Chris? It's very hard to take them, especially how do you plan and execute them, knowing that it's going to be a risk. It could fade on your face. How do you do that, Chris?
So, I mean, it starts with knowing a lot of your underlying KPIs for your marketing organization in general.
Right.
So let's just talk about spending the money, making a financial decision to do something crazy. I know how much it costs to fuel the sales engine. I know from a cost per lead, from a cost per MQL, all the way through to the cost per close one deal that's come through the marketing channel. And so I know how much to budget to reach our company ARR goals. that leaves me with money to spend on things that are more risky. So, and
Right.
the money that I spend isn't just on the demand. It's not just on content syndication, it's on content creation, because everything that we do is based on our content. We don't generate really any leads that don't touch content in some way. We have no deals that have not leveraged no content. I think I put in a double negative. But everything comes back to the content that we're creating in the marketplace right now.
Right.
So I know what it costs to fuel that engine from a content standpoint. And I leave out money specifically. There, I have a line item in my budget for that experimental content. So when I got here, the first thing that we did was define active content governance. It's a thing that didn't exist. It was a definition of a process, of a internal strategy for content governance that didn't exist, that our founder and I created, wrote a book about, and put it out in the marketplace. And again, it wasn't about us. It was about a thing that you could do on the back of a piece of paper if you really wanted to. You didn't need our software. But that was, a risk play that had results. It wasn't the same results as what we're getting, for instance, from the Inclusive Language Guidebook, but it did okay. And that risk gets built into my budget on an annual basis. I know that it's going to cost me X number of dollars to generate the content that I need to fuel the demand engine. But beyond that, what can I reuse? What can I build? What can I create that creates that risk that's going to either go huge or go nowhere? And again, I'm good with either. As long as we know what it costs to fuel the engine and we can consistently and within the model deliver on that, then I don't much care if we try crazy stuff. There was a fun example. I'll give the very short version. There was a conference that we were attending, a developer conference. So somebody wanted to rent a sign truck. Sign trucks are way bigger than you think they are. Be forewarned. This truck was absolutely huge. So we rented a sign truck, built out our messaging on the sign truck, hired 18 vintage Volkswagen Bugs, because our message was, don't let bugs get you down. It was when we were at Perfecto with the software testing. So don't let bugs get you down. And we drove around the Embarcadero area in San Francisco for 3 full days, tying up traffic, beeping our horn with our sign truck and our Volkswagens, flying a drone, an illegal drone overhead, filming the whole thing.
Right.
It was awesome. It was a dramatic failure from an execution standpoint, or from a result standpoint. Like, it didn't generate anything at the conference. We did end up using secondary use of the video that we collected for ABM, and that was somewhat effective. But it didn't matter, because we had the budget set to do the things that we needed to do to fuel the engine. This was just that thing that, like, maybe it's going to be awesome. So it didn't really matter. It was just an exciting trial.
That response is loaded, Chris. It gives marketers like myself a lot of pointers to go back and look at that risk appetite within our budget, right? Even if it's a small, it's better to start small, like you just said. And we don't know how things will pan out. The Volkswagen, the sign truck is like a brilliant example, right? These are the stories that people really haven't heard of. But thanks a lot for sharing them, Chris. Probably another one is a very personal one, because I know you and I kind of introduced you here. What kind of advice would you give to your younger self to be the older self that you are, Chris?
Pay attention in math class. Don't get a theater degree in college. Don't back that theater degree up with a philosophy major. A lot of advice, and most of it aims at being a little bit more mathematical than I am. So today, when I was waiting in the waiting room or backstage before coming on stage here, I was working on my board deck for the end of the year. And I think the big thing would be know my math a little bit better. But beyond that, it's about getting the right people to do the right things, not being afraid, not having ego. And those are the things now that serve me really well. I joke about that theater degree that I have, and I do. So that wasn't the joke part. I actually graduated with a degree in theater arts. I directed for 4 years. And it took me a really long time to figure out whether or not that was valuable to me. And as it turns out, it was, because when you're putting together a stage performance, your first job is to hire the actors. That's your staff. and you got to get the best people for the role, and you have to trust them. And then your job as the manager, as the director, is to give them the context, priority, and the blocking and tackling to make sure that they do their best job. But when the curtain goes up, you can't save them. Like, you have to have everything ready. They have to be able to do their job, and they have to be able to do it autonomously. Nobody likes to be micromanaged, and you can't do that. You can't jump up on stage and be like, you were supposed to be over there, because then you look like a fool in front of everybody. And that, as it turns out, is how I've learned to manage, is get the right people, get things out of their way, and let them do the best job that they can do, doing the things that they know how to do better than anybody else. And that's, I mean, as it turns out, that theater degree was super actionable for what I do now.
Absolutely, Chris. Knowing a bit of theater myself, I can definitely associate with you, especially on the trust and the transparency part, right? And you, more than having the right set of people, in my opinion, the trust that you have in each other plays a huge role. Them trusting you and you trusting them, and that I'm sure you, being a veteran in this field, will be able to incorporate that without any problem in your workplace. But let's explore a little more on that. What kind of things and learnings do you incorporate in your workplace within your team with the help of the theater degree, Chris? This is definitely a fascinating thing that people would want to hear.
I mean, I think one of the big things for me is I actually don't care what your answer is to almost anything, as long as you can defend it. And and I will back my employees up to the end of the world if they have an answer for the decisions they make, good or bad. Like, I actually don't care if things don't work, because we know the model, we know how we've allocated budget, and we know that we can get to where we need to be. So take a shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But be prepared to have an answer as to the decisions that you made. And I think that's a little bit different than most organizations, where there is a lot of excuse making, where people are trying to cover for themselves because they're afraid of what might happen. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to be fine. I want you to do crazy stuff. I just need you to defend it. So whatever your answer is, whatever that is, like, should I buy this software or shouldn't I? It's not my budget. I don't care. If you need it, tell me why you need it and defend your choice. Should I create this piece of content or shouldn't I create this piece of content? I don't know, man. Like, that's on you. You need to have the answer. I will defend if that thing is awesome, I'm going to tell everybody you did it. If that thing is terrible, I'm going to defend you, and because you have an answer. But if you don't have an answer, like, that's dangerous. That's where people get hurt.
Fascinating, Chris. Very, very interesting responses. One of the finest interactions that I've had. There are many questions, but I think I'll send them your way. I think I asked more of my questions than the questions that came through. Maybe just for the sake of it, I'll ask one question here, Chris. Sorry. Yeah. If you are taking away product-centric marketing, doesn't it end up hurting the product?
Yeah, and again, like I ended, I'm not saying we don't do it. We do. My team rolled out such a bulk of content. So the company I'm at has been around for very many years, but in 2017 was acquired by a private equity firm. And we essentially are now a scale-up. We're not a startup anymore, we're a scale-up. And there was a lot of work to do around new product messaging. And we created a metric crap ton of content. All the content that I'm saying is not super exciting. It's not, but it's necessary. We have to tell that story. We have to arm the sales team. We have to give the content that customers need to make buying decisions. But that content doesn't elevate the business. That content doesn't drive lead gen. That content doesn't drive awareness. It doesn't make it easier for when the salesperson walks in to have that first conversation from a position of recognition. If we don't create the exciting and engaging content, then that content that we have created, that product-centric content, is not as valuable, because not very many people are going to see it.
Very interesting response, Chris. Truly, truly remarkable one. Love the session. Thank you so much for partaking. I can already see my team super excited. We are definitely going to promote and repurpose this session as much as possible. And thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Congratulations on a great event.
Thank you so much.